All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Healthy Tampa Bay podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kerry Reller, and today we have Dr. Stacey Funt joining us for the podcast tonight. Welcome to the podcast, and why don't you tell us a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks so much. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Stacey Funt. I'm a radiologist in New York. And about 11 years ago or so, I went back for lifestyle medicine and health coaching. And I did wellness work for a long time. It really morphed into teaching physician self-care. On the side, I've been a lifelong global adventure traveler my entire life and always had the idea of combining them. And then once my kids left for college, the time was right. And so now, besides being a radiologist, I'm also a tour operator and I curate and lead women's wellness adventures around the globe. And all of my itineraries are based on basic tenets of lifestyle medicine. So it's women's wellness adventure travel.
That's awesome. So, first of all, you got into lifestyle medicine
Yes.
really early on because I don't even know if it was around back 11 years ago.
I went to one of the very first conferences.
Yeah, that's awesome. So to review, because I have had discussions on lifestyle medicine, what are the general pillars of lifestyle medicine?
Okay, so it's all about how we live our life to prevent and in some cases even reverse chronic disease to stay well. So it's movement, it's healthy eating, it's stress management, and it's community. Those are the four that in all of my trips. And then there's also involved sleep, and then if you have addiction, get help for addiction. Those are the main pillars of lifestyle medicine.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think, like I said, I do obesity medicine. It crosses over a little bit, but not, completely, right? And I think obviously with some of the nutrition things, there's a little bit of difference there too. What I thought was interesting though is you mentioned the sense of community, and obesity medicine doesn't do that. Can you expand on how you use community and kind of what you do? Because I think that's very unique.
Yeah, first of all, just community as a pillar. I love that they have community as a pillar because we are social beings.
Mhm.
And there's so much tied to how we relate to other people and how that affects our well-being and our wellness in so many different levels. So the way I use it, my trips, there's no join now button on my website. Everybody has to meet with me first. Like we have a one-on-one Zoom with everybody interested to make sure it's a great fit because sisterhood is a really big part of my adventures. And like half the people come with one friend, half the people come alone, it doesn't really matter. But we form a sisterhood and we form like a supportive community that we have this whole shared experience together. And honestly, I get comments after and I have people fill out evaluations, and it's always one of people's absolute favorite parts of the whole experience. I've had people come to me, like just the last trip, somebody sent me a note after that since her kids had just gone to college and since her kids left for college, she didn't even realize that was the missing piece for her connection
Mhm.
being with a group of women like this on this, we went to Morocco, so being in this amazing culture on this wonderful trip, it inspired her to build more community back at home. And now she's putting more time and energy into relationships and building that because it's through community that we move. It's through community they support our habits. It's through community that we share food. And community is a very big part of our stress management, sharing with another person what we're going through, who we are, just pillars of support. So I think it's a really big part of how we live well, which is what lifestyle medicine is really all about, like living well.
Yeah, I like how you say it can support your habits and all of these things. I guess in some ways, depending upon what community you have, it can also have a negative effect, right? But you clearly want
Absolutely.
to associate yourselves with people who have like-minded individuals who are, having the same healthy goals as you, right?
Absolutely. It is much, much easier to support habits if you're with
Mhm.
people who have similar habits.
I always find it a blessing how I found my husband because we, are on the same page. We both like to work out and eat healthy and things like that. And, I don't know, had we, found different partners, like maybe we wouldn't be keeping these good habits up as much
It's
as
funny
we.
you say that. Like my husband and I, we met, it was a hiking trip. And it was like I was in the AMC, he was in the Sierra Club, and it was a joint bring your dog on a hike. We were the two that brought dogs and so
Mm.
hiking is still like now we're married 22 years, 23 years. And we go on treks around the globe and he comes with me to explore new places. And it's a big part of our life together. And for me, I don't love going to the gym. I just don't enjoy, I make myself do it sometimes, but hiking is a big part of how I get movement, and to have a partner who shares in that is really
Mhm.
wonderful, supporting that.
Yeah. Another thing about community, when we think about longevity and living healthier to an older age, all these new shows about the blue zones and everything that you hear about how they all have this wonderful sense of community and these other, lifestyle pillars that they are able to live till they're 100 years old. I think that community is a big component of that as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. And a lot of the work on the blue zones, that it's fascinating work for anyone who doesn't know about the blue zones. So interesting to read about it. But one thing that they all have in common is they have a sense of purpose, right?
Mhm.
That's a big part of the people who live in these blue zones where life expectancy is the longest and they have the best outcomes with, and the least amount of chronic disease. And that sense of purpose often comes from being in community, whether you're giving to your community or whether you're giving to, that's so often how we find our purpose. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, you say, on your website and elsewhere that travel is a profound way to heal and transform. So what are some moments in your personal travels that kind of cemented this belief?
oh my gosh. Well, I've been a traveler always. And I always say, like, I feel I don't pick a trip. I feel like a trip picks me. Like all of a sudden I just know I have to go. But I think my most profound experience, I mean, I have been on travels to heal relationships ending, or I've been on travels to start moving again. But I think the most profound transformation for me personally was after my kids left for college. A month before they left, my father-in-law passed away unexpectedly, and a month after they left, my father passed away unexpectedly. So, and I only have the two, so we became empty nesters all at once. They're twins. So it was such a deep sense of loss. It really was. I found myself feeling like maybe the best was behind me, which I had never felt before. And I was so sad. And I just knew I just felt a calling to go to Nepal. I'm like, I have to go trekking in Nepal. And I asked my husband, he's a teacher, so he's scheduled to go that April. Just the act of preparing and planning for that trip got me out of that funk. It bonded us. It got me moving again. It got me excited about something. So just having something that was a challenge and a shared goal really moved me to another place. But then going to Nepal, I'd been to Asia before, but never Nepal, never this region. And especially that point of our life, we went to the crematorium, the Hindu crematorium, and learned about their beliefs about death and dying and the body. And it was very healing for me on many, many levels, like a body soul kind of healing. And I had thought about doing wellness travel adventure for many years. And it was on that trip, the flight home, I knew I was going to do it. It was a big financial risk at the beginning and things I had to do. And I just knew I was going to do it. And all of a sudden I knew Morocco was going to be my first trip back then. Like I knew it. And so that trip for me really was like a pivotal point in my next chapter of my life without actively mothering my children, and really gave me it really helped me with my grief of losing my father and my
Mhm.
father-in-law, more so my father, because, he'd raised me, and then having the courage to pivot to this new aspect of my life. So, and I've had that experience that was the biggest level, but so many trips, and maybe you have your own experiences as well, that to go to another land where you're not in your normal habits, you're not with your usual people, and then you're in this entirely different culture. And then my trips, I do a lot of nature-based. We go for culture, but I like the natural settings and have these awe-inspiring experiences. It's just like it opens up portals for you to go to different places.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. I like, the nature-based ones that are adventure seeking, like you're doing something fun or, creating a goal. I saw you guys have gone to Machu Picchu and I have done that, I think several years ago. And my husband hasn't, so we've been talking about it. But, I think those are where I really find that time to reflect and really
Yeah.
enjoy nature, right? Like
Yeah.
God's earth, which is just
Yes.
beautiful. And I don't know if I take the time to appreciate it every day. And I think being out to places that I've never been before and that look totally different than boring Florida, then I think like it's so special. Even just like going to California and the different coast and the different waters is just, it's such a great time, like, you said, to like heal and just reflect back too. So I totally agree with that. How do you think the background in lifestyle medicine kind of shaped how you design these travels and trips and things like that.
Yeah, I think that had a very big impact. And I'm going to touch on something you just said that ties into
Okay.
this. I think part of you ever go on a trip and maybe you're away for 5 days even, but you feel like you've been away so much longer, right? I don't know if that happens to you, time expands. And I think the reason for that is what you just talked about. When you go to a new place, we're much more mindful. We're so present because we're looking at everything. Everything's a new perspective. Like, I'm not sitting there daydreaming and like going through Facebook and Googling all day, right? Like, I'm really there and I'm taking it in and I'm seeing all these things I never saw before, experiencing things I haven't experienced before. And that's mindfulness and that's presence. And I think that's why time expands so much. And, stress management, that's one of the pillars of lifestyle medicine. A big part is being present in our lives, I think. That makes travel a unique opportunity. It's like a moving meditation to me, or like a moving practice in mindfulness. So I have always been interested in personal development and wellness and that. So the training in lifestyle medicine, it amazed me the amount of science behind all of this and the impact. And as a physician, I really got that health does not take place in the doctor's office. Health takes place in how we live our lives. And for me, as someone who loves to travel, travel's always been a healthy part of my life. And when I, travel and then couldn't find healthy food, or I felt really like full or like gluttony, it didn't make me feel good. It didn't resonate with other things that I like to do and what makes me feel most alive and best about myself. So as I was learning the lifestyle medicine, it just integrated so naturally into the way I like to plan trips. And I just saw this could be a perfect marriage, for people who enjoy movement. I mean, my movement isn't like I am going to Peru in May. I've been before, but I'm taking a group in May. We're doing the 1 day hike on the on the Inca Trail. We're not doing the 5 day. Like I'll really push it when I'm alone with my husband, but I'm like the last one up the hill. My trips are more moderate, and I do get like in Morocco, we hike. It's spectacular. I'll have different level guides, to accommodate different paces and things like that. But to me, I really appreciate being able to move and being able to take
Mhm.
care of myself. And so to be able to do that on an adventure, it just feels like a great way to live to me. And that's why I wanted to bring it into my business.
Yeah. I think another thing you mentioned, like with the stress relief and things like that, we're always trying to now promote making sure that people take their vacation time, right? And I think that's part of it too, right? You need to be taking that time without the gear, having that special pause and going to take your vacation. Now, whether it's a staycation or vacation, it kind of depends, but I mean, I think that's important for the overall stress that most people are doing. And some people in the past, would forego those weeks of vacation. And now I think a lot of wellness programs are encouraging employees to make sure to take that time and really realize that they need it and it's important. And this is why we give it to you, right?
Yes, I think it's great you said that. And I also love that you mentioned staycation because you don't have to have a lot of money to have a new adventure at all. Travel, you could do inexpensive travel. As a medical student, I had no money and I traveled, I used like points and stayed in inexpensive places, but there can be an adventure anywhere. And during COVID, I did like I was like Morocco, so I took Moroccan cooking classes and I have a newsletter. I have a monthly newsletter. And in my newsletter, I have an international recipe in every issue, just like a mainly whole foods. Or when my kids were growing up, I've been a traveler forever. And when I had little twins, we couldn't go anywhere, but I would decorate the living room and we would pick a country and we would make food and we would get the music and we would turn our whole house, that room into that country. And it was just really fun and exciting. And they would learn about Buddha or they would learn, we would make it this really fun experience. And so even a staycation just takes a little bit of work and a little bit of research. There's always things within
Mhm.
an hour drive wherever you live to change something up and bring in something new that makes you feel very present to it, you know.
Yeah, no, that's true. I like that. That's kind of the stage we're in, not going too far, but doing
Yeah.
staycations close
Yes,
to
yeah.
us.
But
So how do you incorporate like healthy eating? Sometimes people think that they're just going to eat terribly when they're on vacation and they're going to gain a bunch of weight and they're worried about it. So how do you incorporate that pillar?
yeah, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but basically leaving America, you're going to eat better, period. Right? So the countries like this year, I have Morocco, Guatemala, Tuscany. I'm planning to Spain right now and have Peru, right? Most of those cultures, it's predominantly whole foods.
Mhm.
So most places they eat better than we do here, especially like Peru, Morocco, And all of my trips include a cooking class or a food tour, or most people don't realize Antigua, Guatemala is an amazing culinary scene, but it's all whole foods. They have a lot of farm to table. They have farms all over in Guatemala, and so it's really, really fresh food. We're not like militant and people could do whatever they want, but I always make sure there's full vegetarian options, and we're groups of women. We're staying active, and I give everybody a little goodie bag at the beginning and have like RX bars for snacks, and so everybody could do exactly what they want. But for the most part, we're moving, we're active, we're engaged, we're enjoying each other's company, and we eat really well. We eat really well.
Yeah, a lot of patients will come back and go to Europe and say, "Oh, you know what? I thought I was going to gain a bunch of weight, but then I came back and I ate the same things that I would eat here, but I lost weight," right? We're like, "Well, that's because they're not ultra processed pizza and stuff. They used all whole ingredients or pasta, same
It's
thing."
so
But
interesting because my daughter's studying in London this entire year, and she's home right now on vacation. And she was saying that she can't get some of the products in London that
mm-hmm.
we have here because they have so much, they're so much more mindful of environmental toxins or processed food, or we have ingredients here. They have the same products in Europe with different ingredients
Right.
because they
Yeah.
just tolerate a different level.
Yeah, they've done a little bit better in getting out the bad stuff than we have
Yeah,
here,
yeah, they
for
have.
sure.
So that's why I said if you leave America, you're pretty much going to eat better. When we go to
Yeah.
Peru, I mean, the food is spectacular. I mean, every country that I picked, part of it is a culinary experience, and they cook with real whole foods. And we go to the spice market in Morocco, and we have tagine cooking class, and we just do all
Yeah.
these things, and yeah.
I'm trying to remember like what I actually ate in Peru, and I don't remember, but I remember it being good. It's
So
funny.
good. The potatoes,
Yeah.
they have like 3,000 varieties of
Yeah.
potatoes, and they have meat, and they have Peru's fascinating because the indigenous communities are so
Hmm.
earth-based, right? Pachamama is
Hmm.
this what they worship
Worship. Yeah.
in Peru, and they're very connected. The Incas were amazing food engineers. I mean,
Hmm.
brilliant, brilliant food engineers and crop rotation and mixing foods to create variety. And, what do we have? Two varieties of potatoes in our supermarket. You go to their
Yeah.
market, there's seriously hundreds and hundreds of different kinds of
Wow.
potatoes. And they understood living in harmony with food and the role of food in nurturing our body. And they had such reverence and respect for the land and the food.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's really magical there.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's nurturing rather than just, pleasurable like experiences. It's actually healing and making you, healthy, which I think is a different perspective than we have on these things too.
I was saying to my husband recently, like I went through a period where I ate a lot of junk. I mean, seriously,
Hmm.
just junk or just ate. And then I started to slow things down. And I was following the Mediterranean diet for a while, and I was really putting in the time to cook. And I didn't realize how much I love cilantro and lime and feta together in a dish. Like lime,
Mm.
cilantro, shrimp with feta. Like I started making real foods and realized how absolutely delicious these flavors are because I hadn't had the true flavors before because I was eating out, I was rushing, and it made me realize how enjoyable real food can actually be and how much I have particular tastes I didn't even know I had, you know?
Yeah. You're making me hungry. That's good.
Yeah.
So well, give us some of your favorite stories or trips that you've had.
Oh gosh, I mean, favorite is such an interesting word. Of course, me hosting a trip is different than me going and being on a trip, right? So,
Sure.
so I'm going to answer that question from the perspective of host, right? From the perspective of running my business, because I've had many
Okay.
amazing moments traveling. I mean, it's just some of my peak moments in life, have some of my most spiritual moments, and some of my most deeply profound moments for me have been traveling and usually in a natural setting on some adventure. But as a host running these adventures, it's very personally rewarding for me now. I've traveled the globe. So To me, first of all, just creating the experiences is really fun. I do not just use a company in another country and then they run the trip for me. Not at all. I go there first, I pick out exactly what I want, I meet all my local outfitters, I pick some people, and then I work with them to bring to life the adventure I want to go on. So that's kind of how I do it. And so creating these experiences that maybe women who don't have anyone to travel with, or maybe would be nervous because they haven't done it a lot, to be able to bring them on these experiences that normally maybe they wouldn't have joined is really exciting for me. That's kind of like a mission. That's fun. And then to see the community build, that's a really big high for me because that's what I wanted. That's what I was, once my kids left, I wanted to build community. But personal stories. Like I had one woman, I told her I Zoom with everyone, and on the Zoom call, she started to get very emotional because she had been caretaking for so many members of her family for so long. She completely neglected herself, and she gained a lot of weight, and just she felt like she was a doormat, just doing everything for everyone else. And for some reason, my thing came up. She heard about it. It sparked an interest, and we talked. And she decided to make the commitment to herself. She signed up early. She decided to make the commitment to herself to go on this trip with me. Well, then I saw her about 8 months later when we went on the trip. She had lost 50 pounds. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And she cried a few times during the trip. Like, it made me cry because I was so excited for her, but crying because she just felt so great that she was taking care of herself.
Mhm.
The weight is never the problem. The weight is a symptom, right? The weight is just showing what's going on in someone's life, in my opinion, and so it was just such an incredible moment for her to really honor herself and take the time to take care of herself. And then she had so much more to give to everyone else from a more powerful place. So that was a real peak moment for me. And then I had another woman who had some very big medical challenges. She had surgery. And she's someone I knew through parts of my life. I hadn't seen her in a long time. When I had seen her last, she was in a wheelchair and I have active trips. So when she had called me and said she wanted to go, I thought, I'll just explain to her and I can recommend other trips for her,
Mhm.
somebody else's trip. But when we met, she'd actually worked really, really hard in rehab for a long time and she was great. She was great. She had a little bit of balance issue, and that was it. And I hired an extra guy just in case there was any issue. I just had a gut feeling this was great. It had been her dream to go while she was still sick. One of her friends who was going to go with her went to that place, and so she came. And when I tell you, she was like front of the pack most of the trip. And that was a real peak moment for me to see that and have her. It was like proving she had just
Mhm.
passed another moment in her life. Like that illness was now behind her. So those
Those
are
are
just
amazing.
two
Yeah.
stories that have been really, I didn't expect those things to happen. I just thought, oh, this will be really fun. This is my passion. Let me put it out there. And, I'm a radiologist, so often I sit in the dark and I read films and I'm not so connected. So this is actually so joyous for me personally to feel more involved in people's lives and to see the impact directly like that. It's incredibly rewarding for me as someone with this business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those are huge transformations for
Yeah.
people, big time.
Yeah.
Like to be able to do those physical, feats and have
Yeah.
those great results and have a wonderful time. Those
Yeah.
are huge. That definitely would feel really good to be a part of that.
And when I say sisterhood, like at the beginning, everybody introduced themselves. I asked them questions. We have all of our meals, our dinners together. So everybody knew in both of those cases, people knew their stories. So it wasn't just me
Yeah,
that was happy for them. Like we all felt inspired.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was
That's
inspirational.
cool. So for people who aren't able to like kind of go on a global adventure right now, how can they bring the spirit of wellness and adventure into their everyday lives?
Oh gosh,
We sort of touched on it, but
there's so many ways to do that. And I guess my first response would be, well, start with what interests you, right? If you're somebody
Mhm.
who likes to cook a little, right there, that could be the portal into wellness and well-being, right? Maybe
Yeah.
changing up some recipes. playing some international music, reading about the history of a place that you bring a recipe in from, watching a movie from that country before you make the meal or after, or something like that can just make it so fun. Like decide to make an Indian meal and then watch a movie about Gandhi, or just all
Decorate your home like
or
India,
come
like you
home,
said.
listen to Indian music, like, or I'm just picking one country. So many countries. That's so if you enjoy food at all, or even wanted to, that could be a really easy place to start. Now with YouTube, there's so many easy ways to just learn how to do something new. If you enjoy movement. If you enjoy dance, dance is such a fun way to travel the world and never leave your home because every culture in the world, I think dancing is part of our DNA. And every culture, especially every indigenous culture around the world, they have their dance. And so bringing in a dance from another place is a way to get movement. And you could do all those other aspects with the
Mhm.
dance. You can invite some friends over, like for the dance. Like my one of my birthday parties, I had a goddess party and I had a belly dancer come and brought in Middle Eastern food. And we had like, things like that. So dance is another really fun way. And if you just enjoy being social, you could take any of these things we just talked about, make it a party. I
Mhm.
once had a sushi party and I had all the mixes and I bought the rollers and we played the Japanese music and so many different ways to change up routine because that's what it is, breaking out of routine for something that interests you and helps you grow in some way, something that excites you. Somebody once said to me, follow the energy. And I love that expression. If something excites you, then follow that and go with it. And that will always lead you somewhere good to me, as long as it's like healthy energy. Not that you're on like a artificial high, but if you follow the authentic energy. So I would suggest whatever turns you on in life. Maybe dogs, buy dog collars or a new doggy thing or from around, and bring something new in with it.
Yeah, I like the follow the energy. I wrote that down. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Great idea. I think also like, maybe reliving, I was just thinking of something we could do is like reliving our honeymoon of where we went and like creating a meal from, where we went. And so our kids can taste it and see some
Oh my
pictures or
gosh,
something.
I
Yeah.
love that. What a
Yeah.
great idea. We're all creative beings, right? So once you just start thinking, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, these are great ideas. So if any listeners want to learn more about your trips, where can they connect with you online or find out
So my
information?
business is LH. The LH is for lifestyle health. That was
Okay.
my initial wellness company. Instead of lifestyle medicine, it's lifestyle health. So LH Adventure Travel. It's lhadventuretravel.com or it's info at lhadventuretravel.com or my name is Stacey Funt. They can find me that way. I do have a newsletter that I put out once a month and I share some inspiration or some travel tip or a recipe, just whatever excites me that month. And I just try to
Love
share
it.
it with other people.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today?
No, I'm so happy you had me on, and I just really encourage everyone to just do what turns them on and makes them feel well. My favorite quote, I have a quote that just moves me. I'm gonna mix up the words, but it's Mary Oliver's quote, tell me
Okay.
what will you do with your one wild and wonderful life? And it moves me. We never know how long we're here, what's going to happen. We never know. And so how do I want to live my best life now? And that's just kind of what I keep in mind that keeps me going when it gets tough.
Definitely a good quote and the perfect way to live. I like the follow the energy. I'm going to use that one
Yeah,
too. But
awesome.
is Mary Oliver, you said?
Mary Oliver, she's an amazing
Okay.
poet. And
Oh,
tell me, what will you do with your one wild and wonderful life?
I love that. Awesome. Well, we'll have to close there. Thank you so much for
Okay,
coming on the
great.
podcast today and for your time and all of these, awesome information. And, everybody, if you're looking for an adventure travel, look her up at LH Travel,
LH Adventure
Adventure
Travel.
Travel. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody, tune in next week for next week's episode and have a good day. Bye.